The story begins with a legendary hitman, Juzo Ogami, heading to eliminate a target. He was informed that only one or two guards would be present, but upon arrival, he finds the place heavily guarded. Despite this, Ogami remains calm, unshaken, and casually places a cigarette in his mouth. When a guard approaches and asks who he is, Ogami immediately draws his gun and kills him without hesitation. The remaining guards rush in, but Ogami efficiently takes them down one by one using his 9mm pistol, showing extreme precision and experience. One of the targets recognizes Ogami as a feared assassin who kills anyone as long as the price is right. The man attempts to escape with important items from a safe, but Ogami notices him, trips him, and calmly explains that he only kills people he considers beyond saving. When the man tries to fight back, Ogami swiftly knocks him down with a powerful strike. After the mission, a disposal unit arrives to clean the scene. Outside, Ogami scolds his apprentice, Noda, for incorrect intelligence. There were actually 25 enemies instead of one or two. Although Noda admits his mistake, he is still amazed that Ogami defeated them all alone. They also discover a briefcase resembling a wasp nest, which Ogami ignores, not understanding its significance. The next day, Ogami returns home. In an elevator, he accidentally bumps into a child who gets frightened by his intimidating face and runs away. Ogami, who is not good with children, does not react. He briefly reflects that if he had been better at dealing with such things in the past, his family life might have been different. However, he also acknowledges that he and his ex-wife were fundamentally incompatible. He realizes that assassination is the only thing he knows, not out of passion, but because he is simply good at it. He begins to feel that his life lacks meaning and excitement. Later, a man named Nakoda visits Ogami's apartment. During their conversation, Ogami is suddenly stung in the neck by a flying wasp-like insect and collapses in severe pain. He loses consciousness and wakes up in a laboratory run by his former wife, Iri. She explains that the zoo organization he works for is involved in scientific research, and the wasp sting was actually a genetically engineered toxin from experimental manipulation of living organisms. This was confirmed by the nest Ogami brought back. Iri shows Ogami a mirror, revealing a shocking change. He has become physically about 20 years younger. His voice and body have regressed, and even his boss notices the difference when contacted. Although confused, Ogami insists he can still handle missions. Because of the situation, his boss assigns him a strange new mission: infiltrate a middle school. The task is to investigate a client's child attending a private school. Ogami is irritated, feeling it is more like babysitting than assassination work. However, Iri remarks that his lack of formal education makes it somewhat fitting. Despite his complaints, he accepts after learning the payment is high. Before starting school, Nakoda equips him with special glasses containing a hidden camera and microphone to assist him remotely. Ogami reluctantly prepares, knowing he will be surrounded by children all day, something he deeply dislikes. On his first day at school, students introduce themselves. Ogami delivers an extremely awkward and unintentionally intimidating introduction, immediately making him stand out as strange and unapproachable. However, a blonde girl shows curiosity toward him. At home, Nakoda prepares a meal for him, which Ogami finds surprisingly delicious. She criticizes his behavior at school and warns him to maintain his cover identity or risk expulsion. The next day, Ogami begins classes, but initially shows little interest, thinking he has already experienced life fully as a middle-aged man. However, his perspective changes when he learns about negative numbers for the first time. Having never attended normal schooling, he is amazed that numbers can go below zero. This simple lesson excites him deeply, making him realize how much knowledge he has never been exposed to. For the first time, he feels genuine curiosity and happiness about learning. That night, Nakoda finds him still studying, despite previously being uninterested. She becomes slightly concerned about how intensely he is engaging with school life. The next day, a mysterious man is seen silently watching the school gate from a distance. Later, after school, Ogami again experiences new knowledge and begins enjoying his studies. On his way home, he hears commotion and finds a man wearing a panda mask easily overpowering a guard. The attacker, known as Panda Mask, is casually filmed by bystanders, with some even laughing. Panda Mask attacks two girls who had previously treated Ogami coldly. Nakato advises Ogami not to interfere since it is not life-threatening, but Ogami refuses to stand by while wrongdoing occurs. He throws an eraser to create a smoke distraction and engages the attacker. Ogami lands a strong punch, but realizes his younger body is weaker than before. Panda Mask then threatens to use dynamite, but Ogami quickly disables him with a precise strike to a sensitive area and throws the explosive away before it detonates. The threat is neutralized. The two girls mistakenly believe Ogami is their savior, but he denies it and claims it was someone else, avoiding attention. The next day, school life returns to normal. Students discuss forming a group chat and debate whether to include Ogami, as he is seen as a loner. The girls he saved invite him to join, thanking him shyly. He reluctantly agrees. That night, Ogami is overwhelmed by constant group chat notifications. Nakato offers him a cigarette, but he refuses, noting that his younger body cannot handle it. Despite everything, Ogami admits he feels lighter and more refreshed than before. For the first time, he decides to continue observing this new life, while balancing his school mission and his identity as an assassin. The next day in high school, Kotaro admits to a classmate that he is more amazed by his own growing fascination with studying than by the experience of becoming a teenager again. With the wisdom of an older mind, the protagonist responds that Kotaro may not yet understand the joy of learning because he is still young. For someone who has experienced much in life, studying for one's own sake becomes a genuine and fulfilling pleasure. Social matters in school are more complicated. At the lockers, the protagonist is greeted again by girls he had met before. He tries to return their greeting, but his serious and intimidating demeanor unintentionally makes them uneasy. They invite him to join their group chat, but he hesitates, overwhelmed by the fast pace of messages, slang, and emojis used by modern students. Inside the classroom, his attention is immediately drawn to a target student named Norin. Throughout the day, Norin stands out in every subject, excelling in physical activities with ease, showing clear irritation toward the attention she receives from boys, and speaking perfect English. While everyone admires her, the protagonist remains focused on her because she is the daughter of the president of Mitsuko Pharmaceuticals, a key clue tied to the mystery surrounding his body and transformation. He knows he must get closer to her, no matter what. During break time, Kotatsu complains that the protagonist behaves like a loner with no social life. The protagonist understands this, but finds it extremely difficult to interact normally with teenagers who are 20 years younger than him. Eventually, he gathers courage and approaches Norin to greet her, but she responds coldly, openly expressing disgust and saying she does not want to speak to someone like him. Shocked and hurt, he returns to his seat. Even after leaving the room, he cannot shake the feeling of rejection. The idea that a young girl would speak to him so harshly deeply affects him. His classmates later explain that he should not take it personally. Norin hates all boys. Ever since entering high school, she has been treated like an idol, receiving countless confessions, all of which she rejected. As a result, she has built a strong emotional wall around herself. With this knowledge, the protagonist feels even more discouraged. Approaching her already seemed difficult as a classmate, but now it feels nearly impossible. He temporarily gives up and focuses instead on his hunger. Unfamiliar with the area, he enters a random ramen shop to eat. To his shock, the waitress serving him is none other than Norin herself. For a moment, they silently acknowledge each other, then pretend not to know one another. The protagonist maintains composure, but his mind is full of confusion. He wonders why the daughter of a wealthy pharmaceutical family is working in such a simple restaurant. However, he sets aside his questions and enjoys the meal. The ramen turns out to be exceptional. Rich broth, perfectly cooked noodles, and deep flavor. As he finishes his bowl, Norin approaches him and quietly asks him to wait behind the shop after her shift. Later, she confronts him and asks how he ended up there. Nervously, he replies that he lives nearby, surprising her since she believed no one from school would discover her secret part-time job. She then asks him to keep it confidential, and he agrees without hesitation. While walking together, the protagonist wonders why she is walking home alone instead of using a driver. Norin reveals her rebellious nature, saying she despises empty privilege. She works at her uncle's ramen shop not out of necessity, but because she enjoys it. She also hates being treated as a trophy daughter because of her wealthy Canadian family background. Many suitors try to approach her only to form alliances, but she rejects that lifestyle. Instead, she admires her uncle, who abandoned luxury to open his own ramen shop. That independence is what she aspires to. The protagonist is impressed and encourages her to follow her own path. He also admits the ramen was one of the best meals he has ever had. Norin becomes visibly happier and explains how she even helps prepare the broth, revealing a more cheerful side of her that no one at school sees. Before parting, she returns to her cold school persona and warns him not to get too familiar with her. After they separate, the atmosphere suddenly shifts. The sound of screeching tires breaks the silence. Norin is kidnapped in an instant by an unknown vehicle. The protagonist is not surprised. He knows Mitsuoka Pharmaceuticals is involved in dangerous affairs, so an attack on her was inevitable. Kotato attempts to track the vehicle using the camera in the protagonist's glasses, but the license plate is fake and the car is already far away. The protagonist relies on instinct rather than data. A veteran assassin, he climbs a tall structure and uses a tracking bullet to fire at the escaping vehicle. Despite wind resistance and distance, the bullet follows a precise trajectory and strikes the rear bumper, marking the target. He orders Kotato to keep tracking the signal. He refuses to lose sight of them, especially after finally enjoying something as satisfying as that ramen. Minutes later, they reach an abandoned building where Norin is being held. The kidnappers are excited about her identity. One of them confronts her, revealing that they believe she knows information about a rare medicine developed by her father. Norin denies it. The man threatens to destroy her uncle's shop, recalling that he visited it the previous day and found it dirty and worthless. Norin panics and begs him not to involve her uncle. At that moment, the protagonist shoots the man with a rubber bullet, knocking him unconscious. He warns that anyone who cannot appreciate good food has a broken taste. He then covers Norin's face with a backpack to hide her identity and prepares to fight the remaining enemies. He realizes that his teenage body is too weak to carry Norin while fighting, so he improvises by using a cart as both transport and shield. With precise movements guided by Kotato, he defeats the kidnappers one by one through narrow corridors and makes their escape. Just as they think they are safe, the leader returns in an armored vehicle in rage. Unable to rely on firearms, the protagonist throws the cart and uses debris to destabilize the vehicle, causing it to crash and knocking the leader unconscious again. Before leaving, he advises the defeated man to respect women, emphasizing basic ethics, even for criminals. He then sedates Norin to safely bring her home. However, he realizes something important has been lost during the chaos: his favorite study book. The next day, Norin wakes up shaken, unsure whether what happened was real. A mark on her hand confirms it was not a dream. She wonders who saved her, recalling that the voice sounded like someone from her class. At school, she approaches the protagonist and directly asks if he was the one who saved her. He pretends ignorance and denies involvement, only hinting that if she is referring to the ramen shop incident, he will not reveal it. In return, he asks for another free bowl of ramen. Norin, slightly flustered, agrees. The next day at school, Juo is introduced to a new topic in mathematics, but he struggles intensely to comprehend it. Despite repeated effort and independent review, the concepts remain incomprehensible, leaving him increasingly frustrated. Upon returning home, Juo seeks help from Nakoda, hoping for a simpler explanation. However, Nakoda is equally incapable of understanding the subject, leaving Juo without support. He then calls Eri, but she refuses to involve herself and advises him to consult his teacher instead. Juo hesitates, feeling uncomfortable because his teacher is younger than him, but Eri bluntly tells him to abandon his pride or solve it alone. The following day, Juo continues to avoid asking questions in class and falls further behind as new lessons are introduced. After class, he collapses onto his desk in despair. At that moment, a blue-haired student named Rio approaches and offers assistance. After listening, Rio identifies the root issue. Juo never mastered basic arithmetic, which causes his current confusion. Juo realizes this is true, admitting he spent his childhood training as a hitman rather than studying. Rio then proposes regular study sessions, and Juo agrees. Over the next 2 weeks, Juo studies consistently with Rio and gradually rebuilds his foundational knowledge. Eventually, the class takes a surprise math quiz, and Juo achieves a perfect score. Overjoyed, he thanks Rio, who responds that Juo deserves credit for his dedication and effort in relearning everything properly. After celebrating, they go to a restaurant where an accident occurs. A man bumps into Rio and spills coffee on his laptop. Instead of apologizing, the man becomes aggressive. Rio remains calm and apologizes to avoid conflict. During their conversation, Jewel praises Rio's ability to balance teaching and studies and asks about his goals. Rio reveals his dream of becoming a doctor, inspired by his mother's illness and passing, as well as his grandmother's declining health. These experiences shaped his desire to help others live longer lives. Juo is deeply moved by Rio's sincerity, but the earlier man interrupts, mocking Rio's ambition and insulting both of them. Juo becomes enraged, but Rio restrains him from using violence. Rio then firmly defends his dream and refuses to allow his efforts or Juo's struggles to be belittled. Other customers intervene, forcing the man to leave in embarrassment. Outside, Juno and Rio part ways, but Juno notices the same man approaching on a bicycle. Believing it to be an act of revenge, Juno intervenes and uses a divider to strike the bike, causing the man to fall off a bridge into the water below. Rio, unaware of what happened, hears only the sound and is told nothing by Juno. The next day, Juno experiences a dream recalling his distant relationship with his daughter Kaye. Realizing how his life as a hitman deprived him of meaningful time with her, he wakes up in regret. Nakoda arrives and is shocked by the disordered room, cleaning while criticizing Juno's refusal to maintain it himself. Juno insists household chores are not his responsibility, revealing his outdated mindset. At school, club activities begin. Juo avoids sports clubs due to his abnormal physical abilities and demonstrates his strength by casually throwing a baseball bat with inhuman speed. In class, Rio mentions joining the Kendo Club. Juo considers the Home Economics Club instead, but Chisato, Rio's older sister and club leader, invites him and playfully pressures him into attending. At the Home Economics Club, Juo participates in cooking activities and tastes miso soup, admitting it is surprisingly good. Chisato then proposes a wager. If Juo remains unimpressed, she will serve him for 6 months. If he enjoys it, he must join the club. Though hesitant, Juo accepts. After the session, he claims the experience was average, but Chisato is unconvinced. Nakoda later points out that Juo clearly enjoyed it, despite denying it. That evening, Eri and Kazai thank Juo for the food he brought home, praising its taste. Their appreciation moves him, reminding him of Chisato's words about cooking for others. Realizing he feels valued, Juo decides to join the Home Economics Club. The next day, he submits his application, and Chisato is pleased. Juo later learns that Norin has also joined the club. She warns him that they are not friends, despite being in the same group. Meanwhile, Nakoda receives an email from Ari revealing a critical condition for Juo's return to his original form. He must marry Norin. The explanation involves the Wasp, a product of Mitsuka Pharmaceuticals, meaning access to the company is required to reverse the transformation. Juo is shocked and rejects the idea as impossible. Later, while walking home after eating ramen, he accompanies Norin, who vents about her absent father. Though distracted, Juo listens partially. Norin eventually softens, acknowledging she enjoys their casual interactions, but denies considering him a friend. Back at school, The Home Economics Club gains popularity due to Norin's presence, attracting many new members. Overwhelmed by attention, Norin suddenly declares that Duel is her boyfriend to stop the harassment, leaving him stunned. Norin and Duel manage to escape from classmates who were demanding explanations about Norin's sudden statement regarding a boyfriend. After successfully evading them, Norin immediately apologized, admitting that her accumulated stress had overwhelmed her and caused her to blurt it out impulsively. Juo found the situation frustrating, but Kota noted that, in a way, his mission had been achieved. Juo firmly rejected the idea of marriage, stating he would never consider marrying someone the same age as his daughter. Norin then made a request, acknowledging it was selfish, and asked Juo to continue pretending to be her boyfriend to prevent similar incidents. Juo was stunned, but eventually agreed, clearly stating that it would remain strictly pretend. However, consequences quickly followed. A group of boys confronted and attacked Juo, demanding he either distance himself from Norin or perform daily errands for them. Juo considered fighting back, but chose not to risk suspension. Instead, he escaped by leaping from a third-floor ledge, landing safely on a mat and casually apologizing for interrupting gym class. Back in class, rumors spread rapidly that Juo and Norin were dating, causing him to attract unwanted attention. Kota and Baba observed his earlier escape and, while impressed, warned him that things would escalate further. Baba explained that their elite school housed highly skilled individuals, including a feared group known as the Unicorns, students with exceptional talent, appearance, and charisma. Rumors suggested they were all interested in Norin, meaning Juo would inevitably face more challenges. That night, Kota suggested ending the fake relationship, especially since Juo had no intention of marrying Norin. He also revealed troubling news. The Underworld and Mitsuka Pharmaceuticals' WASP de-aging research had attracted criminal interest. Since brute force would not work, elite undercover operatives were expected to infiltrate the school, all targeting Norin as potential fiancés. This placed her at the center of dangerous competition from both criminal organizations and elite students. The next day, Norin told Juo she no longer wanted him to continue pretending, believing it only brought him trouble. She proposed ending the arrangement and even suggested avoiding club activities, though she still invited him to eat ramen and talk occasionally. Before Juo could respond, another boy interrupted, insulting him and challenging his right to stand beside Norin. Although Norin rejected the boy, he persisted and tried to force her into dating him. Seeing this, Juo reinstated the fake boyfriend role, declaring that Norin was still his girlfriend and ordering the boy to stay away. The confrontation escalated when the boy attacked, claiming he trained with adults at a gym. Juo effortlessly blocked him, warning him to train more seriously. Afterward, Norin thanked him, and Juo stated he would continue the act temporarily, partly to avoid complications. Norin criticized his possessive line, calling it unnatural for someone their age. Meanwhile, an unknown observer watched Juo closely, noting his exceptional combat ability and suspecting he belonged to a similar profession. This individual, revealed to be a highly skilled operative, had been assigned to infiltrate Norin's school and become her fiancé, under orders linked to the same organization pursuing Mitsuka Pharmaceuticals' secrets. He regarded Juo as a potential rival. Back at school, Norin questioned Juo's strength, but he denied being capable of fighting. She remained suspicious, especially after witnessing his earlier encounter. Kota joked about Juo being interrogated by a middle schooler. Norin then mentioned a fountain pen her father had sent her, instructing her to give it to her boyfriend, strangely already knowing Juo's name. A transfer student named Shin Kozami soon arrived, immediately drawing attention. Juo and Kota suspected him of being another elite operative targeting Norin. Shin initially froze during his introduction, acting socially awkward, but later privately displayed a different personality. He delivered a letter asking Norin to meet him after school. Norin, following the fake boyfriend arrangement, involved Juo. Shin then revealed his intent and strange behavior, including using a pacifier to manage extreme stage fright. Shin declared his love at first sight and suddenly attacked Juo, confirming he was aware of Juo's identity. He challenged Juo to a duel for Norin's fiance position, explaining that the fountain pen represented official recognition. The duel rules stated that whoever held it at the end would win. Juo accepted, refusing to let Norin be taken. A large crowd gathered after school to witness the duel. Shin announced the condition. Juo would lose if he was forced to put a pacifier in his mouth within 1 hour. Shin aggressively attacked, while Juo evaded without revealing his true abilities, using minimal effort to avoid suspicion. Shin revealed his obsession and believed that he would be superior if both were babies. As the fight continued, Shin became increasingly aggressive, but Juo began questioning his own feelings toward Norin, realizing they were not romantic. However, memories of his daughter Kosu resurfaced, reigniting his determination. Near the final minute, Shin unleashed multiple traps involving pacifiers, attempting to corner Juo. Juo narrowly avoided several attacks, countering with precise timing using improvised tools. When the hour ended, Shin believed he had lost, but it was revealed he had set layered traps. Despite this, Juo countered them with perfect timing and won the duel. Shin accepted defeat, while Juo reflected that his feelings for Norin were not romantic, but tied to unresolved emotions involving Kosu and his past. Norin expressed confusion over the duel situation, and Shin later joined the Home Economics Club, still insisting he would not give up on her. Meanwhile, another group watched a pitcher throw an extremely fast ball, knocking over the catcher with overwhelming force. Everyone is astonished as the pitcher thanks the catcher for helping him practice. Spectators question whether Juzo Ogami is truly a middle school student. His fastball is so overwhelming that even a college-level player struggles to receive it cleanly. The crowd is stunned, insisting he feels almost inhuman and fully deserving of the unicorn title. Soon after, a teacher announces that midterm examinations will begin next week, suspending all club activities. For the girls, it marks their first major test since entering middle school, and anxiety spreads among them. Norin Mitsuya asks Juzo Ogami about his condition for the exams, but she is taken aback by his intense demeanor. His classmates misinterpret his expression as anger. Juzo explains that it is not anger, but his approach to examinations, declaring he intends to eliminate the test itself, releasing an intimidating aura that unsettles everyone. Katsu warns him through his earpiece not to expose his assassin-like behavior over something trivial. Juzo regains composure and admits this is his first experience with midterms. Unsure how to proceed, he seeks guidance from Ryo-sensei, who advises him to continue his usual habit of studying in advance and reviewing consistently. Reassured, Juzo thanks him. The next morning, Norin arrives unusually cheerful, relieved that exam week prevents romantic confessions and allows her peaceful sleep. However, she soon encounters Juzo in a shocking state, exhausted, with hollow eyes and severe dark circles. Concerned, Ryo-sensei urges him to rest, but Juzo admits he cannot stop studying, comparing it to athletes who overtrain despite knowing better. Shin offers him a pacifier to help him relax, but Juzo refuses. Katsu also advises moderation, yet Juzo dismisses him. Later, Katsu tells him to find dinner elsewhere, directing him to Mama's establishment. Meanwhile, Norin is sent home early from the ramen shop due to slow business. She secretly follows Juzo and is horrified to see him enter a suspicious district, eventually arriving at Bar Jabami, where Gecko welcomes him. Inside, Mama greets Juzo warmly, calling him adorable and explaining she presents him as her nephew to avoid suspicion. She recalls how Katsu introduced Juzo to her, establishing trust for emergencies. Soon, Ari arrives, revealing she is a regular customer. Juzo is surprised, while Ari reassures him and comments on his sleeplessness, attributing it to excessive studying. She advises him that unlike past missions, academic life allows mistakes and growth, encouraging him to embrace the experience of being a middle schooler. Outside, Mama tells Juzo to head home. Norin, who has been watching, is disturbed seeing him exit a bar with an older woman, deepening her confusion about his identity. Midterms arrive, and Juzo performs averagely, making minor mistakes but accepting the result calmly, determined to improve for finals. Norin, meanwhile, becomes increasingly suspicious, feeling he resembles an adult guardian rather than a student. During home economics club activities, the president teaches sewing a button. The process involves threading, wrapping, looping, and knotting. Juzo compares it to mechanical maintenance, where personal involvement builds attachment. Sheen mistakenly believes needles are weapons, while Juzo fails at sewing and is mocked by Norin, though she also struggles. They seek help from senior members and practice together. After club, they meet Kyo, who tends sunflowers. Norin expresses her enjoyment of the club, describing how each member has a passion. Kyo with plants, others with cooking, baking, and crafts. The club works in harmony without idle gossip, strengthening her appreciation. Later, they are assigned to prepare rice balls for the baseball team, including a senior league that shares their field. Rumors spread about elite unicorn athletes among them. At the field, they meet Tendo, an imposing prodigy across multiple sports. He thanks them for the food before revealing interest in Juzo and Norin. Tendo abruptly challenges Juzo to a duel, initially claiming the winner would date Norin, though she immediately rejects the idea. He clarifies his true intent is to defeat Juzo, whom he sees as an obstacle. He declares his ambition to become a triple-threat sportsman, dominating baseball, soccer, and basketball at the highest level. Katsu explains Tendo's extraordinary status as an elite athlete across multiple disciplines, making him a true unicorn. Tendo dismisses Juzo as irrelevant, insulting both him and the Home Eeks Club. Juzo accepts the challenge, enraged by the disrespect toward his club back. Tendo proposes a modified soccer match called Foot, scheduled 1 week later, offering a numerical disadvantage. Juzo refuses the handicap, but Tendo insists. Afterward, teammates and observers describe Tendo as both heroic and overwhelmingly dominant. Back at school, the Homie Co-Club president orders Juzo to defeat Tendo. Juzo, equally fired up, vows to make him regret his arrogance. The team prepares for the match, with additional members joining, including Shin and Kido, who both wish to defend the club's honor and Norin's dignity. Norin, deeply embarrassed by earlier misunderstandings, becomes more determined to support Juzo. Meanwhile, Tendo trains with his teammate, revealing he is unsettled by Juzo's presence, despite dismissing him publicly. His teammate recognizes Tendo's unmatched athletic dominance, capable of overwhelming all resistance. On match day, the game begins under a 3-on-2 format. Juzo states that if he loses, they will accept standard conditions, but if he wins, Tendo must apologize to the Homie C Club. Tendo agrees, confident in victory, stating that even such conditions will not matter because he intends to win regardless. The football match begins, and the crowd erupts as the home team faces Tendo's side in a high-intensity foot duel. Kyo reminds himself that their only advantage is numbers. If they keep passing to the open man, they still have a chance. Juzo Ogami receives the ball, but Tendo instantly disappears from one side of the field to the other in a burst of inhuman speed. Everyone is shocked. Tendo casually says he will start with a hello and immediately attempts a powerful opening kick. Shin is stunned as Tendo fires an overwhelming shot, but it goes wildly off target, so strong that it even topples the goal structure. The crowd is left speechless. Juzo responds without hesitation, despite Katsu warning him not to reveal his abnormal abilities. He declares he will deal with the aftermath after wiping that smug expression off Tendo's face. Juzo launches a powerful kick, and although Tendo blocks it, the impact forces it out of bounds. Even Tendo is surprised by its strength, while the spectators realize Juzo's kicking power is professional level. Kaido prepares for the restart, but Juzo notices Shin trembling uncontrollably. It is revealed Shin has lost his pacifier, the item that stabilizes his mental state. Without it, he becomes useless from panic. The team realizes Tendo accidentally knocked it loose during the earlier exchange. Shin can barely communicate, but they deduce the pacifier is in the classroom. Norin volunteers to retrieve it. In the meantime, Juzo tells Shin to stand in goal as a distraction since they've lost their numerical advantage, turning the match into a 2-on-2 scenario. Tendo grows impatient. Meanwhile, the girls retrieve the pacifier and learn its emotional significance. Shin uses it because it reminds him of his late mother's kindness. When they return, Shin is unexpectedly battered, but performing miraculous saves, blocking even Tendo's shots. Norin insists he is not on fire, but being overwhelmed physically. They warn she must return the pacifier quickly, or Shin will collapse. At the critical moment, Norin throws it just as Tende fires another shot. Shin catches it dramatically, regaining composure instantly. Shin apologizes and declares the real match begins now. The intensity rises. Tendo once again pressures the field with overwhelming speed and skill, but Juzo adapts, matching his tempo. Although Tendo still breaks through with raw talent, Juzo interrupts his flow and steals possession, even if he kicks it out afterward. Kaido notices Juzo is improving in real time, while Juzo admits he is simply enjoying the game again after a long time. Katsu warns him not to slip in his words, but Juzo acknowledges that this is not about hiding anymore. Unlike his former life, this match allows trial and error, and the freedom excites him. Tendo, however, becomes increasingly frustrated. A flashback reveals his mindset. Born with overwhelming athletic talent, he rejects the idea of rivals. He does not seek equality, but domination, aiming to become a legend across 3 sports, baseball, soccer, and basketball, to erase comparison entirely. Back in the present, Tendo escalates, kicking the ball into the air and announcing he will get serious. He destroys the ball itself to prove his intent. Kaido explains that Tendo never plays at full strength unless necessary. He constantly limits himself to avoid ending matches too quickly. His philosophy is relentless self-improvement, even if it isolates him. Tendo breaks through the defense with unstoppable force, scores, and ends the first half with his team leading. The crowd is electrified, acknowledging his overwhelming superstar energy. Despite the disadvantage, Juzo requests to face Tendo alone in the second half. His teammates agree. The match resumes, and Juzo directly challenges Tendo head-on. Surprisingly, he keeps up through instinct and timing rather than strategy, reading Tendo's rhythm instead of overpowering him outright. Norin watches closely, confused by Juzo's sudden change. Juzo reflects internally. He once hated losing as a child, but over time, life dulled his competitive spirit. This match revives that feeling. He thanks Tendo for it, saying he is genuinely enjoying himself. Tendo, puzzled, calls him strange, but continues aggressively. The duel intensifies as both begin reading each other's movements. Shin realizes Juzo is not reacting randomly, but synchronizing with Tendo's timing. By matching the exact moment of movement, Juzo finally stops him completely. Juzo declares they are not equal yet and pushes forward with determination. He criticizes Tendo for looking down on their club and channels his frustration into strength, scoring an equalizing goal. The gym erupts in shock and celebration. Tendo, furious, attempts to regain control, but suddenly finds his movement restricted. He realizes he has been injured during the clash. After a moment of silence, he concedes and forfeits the match, admitting defeat because continuing would risk his future in other sports. The home team is declared the winner. The crowd reacts with mixed emotions, some booing, but Tendo accepts it. He admits the injury was real and that he only pushes himself fully in sports he truly values. Shirishi, the club president, calmly tends to his injury, stating that helping others is simply what their club does. She wraps his foot, while Tendo acknowledges her goal-driven nature and respects it. Crutches are provided, and Tendo formally apologizes for mocking them, praising the rice balls. Later, Juzo is surrounded by attention from multiple sports clubs due to his performance. He insists it was only an adrenaline-driven anomaly. Katsu warns that attention will not fade easily. Tendo later appears at the Home Economics Club again, surprising everyone. Instead of another challenge, he confesses his feelings to Shirishi, asking her to go out with him. the room erupts in shock. Shirishi is speechless, while Ryo reacts violently, threatening him for approaching his sister. Tendo remains serious, explaining that she made him realize he understands nothing outside sports, and now wants to stay with her. Meanwhile, Juzo reflects on how his life has become increasingly exposed after the match, as sports clubs continue pursuing him, making his goal of a quiet school life more difficult. Tendo acknowledges that Juzo is far from normal, and states that his presence is unlike anything he has encountered. He warns that Juzo's nature will eventually be revealed. Juzo internally recognizes this as true, but still chooses to protect his peaceful school life. News spreads about Tendo's supposed injury, which later turns out to be exaggerated or false. Juzo suspects Tendo intentionally allowed the rumor to spread, reducing attention on Juzo's victory. In the end, Tendo plans to announce a comeback later, and Juzo reflects that things ultimately worked out in his favor, allowing him to maintain some level of cover. A while later, Ju and Kotaru engage in live-fire sparring, exchanging controlled gunshots as part of training. Ju skillfully evades every trap Kotaru prepared, reading the battlefield with precision. As the distance closes, the fight escalates into close-quarters combat, where Ju decisively outmaneuvers Kotaru and checkmates him. Defeated, Kotaru acknowledges him as a legendary hitman and admits that even in a middle school body, Ju remains overwhelmingly powerful. Ju reflects that although his current body is weaker, his accumulated experience and tactical knowledge allow him to move more efficiently than before. Kotaru then becomes serious, warning him not to go all out recklessly like he did against Tendo. He reminds Ju that the Home Economics Club is still suspicious of him and stresses the absolute rule of his disguise: never let anyone discover his true identity. It is essential for the mission, his payment, and his survival. Back at the Home Economics Club, the president makes an unexpected request to June and Norin. She appears serious, but shockingly asks them to join her on a double date. Everyone is stunned, and Norin immediately questions whether she has agreed to date Tendo. The president denies having any romantic intention, but admits Tendo has been persistently confessing every day. Eventually, she loosely agreed to one date, under the condition it wouldn't be just the two of them, so she invited them along. Yamako scolds her, warning she may end up manipulated by pushy men if she continues being naive. The day of the double date arrives. Norin feels uneasy, still curious about Ju's hidden identity. The president is surprised by Norin's disguise, which she calls anti-pickup protection. Tendo arrives in full workout attire, causing immediate complaints, since the others consider it inappropriate for a date. Despite this, he is simply happy to be there with the president. Ju arrives last, dressed in an overly mature, teacher-like outfit with a clutch bag, making the group feel even more mismatched. Flashback shows Kotaru panicking when he learned Ju would attend a double date, warning his outfit would fail socially, though Ju ignored him. Back in the present, the group continues anyway. Tendo suggests shopping and a movie, surprisingly normal for him. As they walk, Ju casually mentions the area used to be rough in the past. Norin questions his wording, causing Ju to panic and awkwardly claim he read it online. Kotaru immediately warns him through his earpiece not to slip. They pass a ramen shop where Norin works part-time, and she nervously downplays her familiarity with it. Tendo says he wants to try it, but refuses because it is not his cheat day. They continue through a coffee house, shopping, and finally the cinema. Tendo enjoys himself, and the president is surprised by how normal the experience feels. Norin, however, grows increasingly suspicious of Ju, convinced he behaves like someone much older. During the movie, Ju suddenly experiences a strange sensation. His heartbeat spikes, and he loses consciousness. When he awakens, he is horrified to discover his body has reverted to his adult form, complete with stubble. He realizes something has triggered the transformation and panics at the risk of exposure. He excuses himself to the restroom. Internally, he considers leaving entirely, thinking this situation is too dangerous. Tendo approaches, forcing him to hide inside a stall. Ju contacts Kotaru, who instructs him to use a voice-changing sticker and phone app to disguise himself. He successfully fakes illness and tells Tendo he will take time in the restroom, asking them to leave without him. Suddenly, Norin's scream echoes. She has been kidnapped by two hooded figures. Ju immediately abandons hiding and rushes out. Kotaru warns him, but Ju creates a distraction by having Tendo comfort the president, allowing him to slip away. Norin reports the kidnappers were in black hoodies. Ju steals a motorcycle and pursues them. Back at the theater, Norin insists they must help Ju. Tendo agrees after hesitation, deciding action is necessary. They follow the trail to a stadium, where Norin is being held. Kotaru reveals the kidnappers belong to Jordan, a powerful assassin syndicate. The attackers, Kazuma, 15, and Eiji, 13, are both black rank assassins. Kazuma introduces himself and states his goal is Norin's affection, while later challenging Ju separately. He reveals Eiji specializes in hypnosis and intends to force Norin into loving his brother. Kazuma then offers Tendo a deal. Abandon Ju, and he will ensure Norin falls for him. Tendo refuses, declaring he would rather lose honestly than win through manipulation, comparing it to cheating in sports. Negotiations collapse, and battle begins. Kazuma attacks with golf balls as high-speed weapons, forcing the group to split. Eiji acts as sniper support. Ju starts unarmed, but Kotaru sends a drone carrying weapons. Kazuma destroys it mid-air with precision, preventing Ju from arming himself. Recognizing the sniper setup, Ju creates a distraction using metal to produce sound. Eiji fires, triggering an explosion that launches a weapon toward Ju. He catches it, finally armed. Ju declares that Norin is like a daughter to him and states he would never allow someone to manipulate her emotions, vowing to crush anyone who attempts it. Kazuma reviews Ju Ogami's classified file, revealing his past identity as a top-ranked hitman in the organization ZOO, which holds third place in the industry. Ju was once the #1 assassin with a perfect 100% success rate, known for refusing missions involving women, children, or civilians. His dossier includes detailed personal data, preferred cigarette brand, whiskey choice, and signature weapon, the P210. His combat abilities in marksmanship, hand-to-hand fighting, and knife techniques are all elite. He is ambidextrous, and even left-handed shots match sniper-level precision, earning him the title Devil's Left Hand. In the present, Ju regains control of the battlefield. Kazuma struggles to evade, realizing direct confrontation is disadvantageous. Ju retrieves his magazine, acknowledging Kotaru's assistance. A security guard enters, ordering Ju to leave due to unexplained explosions. Ju is frustrated, realizing Kazuma failed to evacuate civilians. Kazuma claims it is not against his principles. Kotaru warns that any misfire could endanger the guard. Kazuma fires, but Ju intercepts every bullet mid-air with precise countershots, leaving Kazuma stunned. Such a feat should be impossible. Kazuma begins connecting clues: Ju Ogami, Norin Mocha Pharmaceuticals, and the legendary hitman he once studied. He realizes the middle schooler and the infamous assassin are the same person. Kotaru angrily reminds Ju this is why he insisted on changing his identity. Ju insists the mission was supposed to be simple reconnaissance. To deflect suspicion, Ju fabricates a story. He is the secret son of Ju Ogami, seeking revenge for abandonment. He claims he adopted the same name to find his father. Kazuma surprisingly believes him, sympathizing with the cruelty of the Underworld. He even shares his own past, explaining he and his brother Eiji were once ordinary children. Kazuma enjoyed magic tricks, while Eiji loved sports, until an incident changed everything. Kazuma regains focus, declaring Eiji is the most important person in his life, and that he wants Norin to become part of that happiness. He hints that Minoka Pharmaceuticals may hold the key to restoring Eiji's original self. He then reveals his true weapon, hypnosis, activated through a lighter. A possessed security guard attacks Ju, confirming Kazuma's control extends beyond the battlefield. Ju neutralizes the guard, but Kazuma reveals this is only the beginning. Kazuma discloses that all civilians outside are already hypnotized and begin advancing toward the stadium. Zhu contacts Tendo, warning him to escape. Tendo remains calm, stating that after witnessing exploding golf balls and other abnormal events, he understands the situation is life-threatening. However, he refuses to run, declaring that elite athletes constantly face the boundary between life and death as part of their pursuit of greatness. He ends the call, determined to continue. Tendo confronts Eiji, launching a soccer ball attack. Eiji places Norin in a secure position before engaging. Their projectiles, exploding golf balls and soccer shots, collide violently, producing massive blasts. Eiji adapts quickly, using club switching and backspin techniques to outmaneuver Tendo. Despite the chaos, Tendo pushes forward, treating the battle as a path toward achieving the impossible. Meanwhile, Ju navigates a crowd of hypnotized civilians while avoiding harm. He escapes outdoors, only to find even emergency responders under Kazuma's control. Forced to improvise, he redirects water hoses to repel attackers. Exhausted, he hears Norin's voice and realizes she is nearby. Kazuma's lighter is revealed to be a trigger device. Once activated, Ju is placed under hypnosis. Kazuma confirms he had prepared everything in advance and reveals disguise-based manipulation as part of his skill set. Ju struggles against the control, while Kotaru realizes the situation is designed around Ju's moral code. His refusal to harm civilians is exactly what makes him vulnerable. Kazuma exploits this weakness, trapping him in a hostage scenario. Kazuma takes control of the gun and prepares to finish him. However, Ju requests one final action, removing Kazuma's disguise. At that moment, a bullet strikes from above, part of Ju's earlier scattered shots, fired with a calculated 70% success probability. One bullet triggers a hidden explosive setup beneath a stretcher, which detonates and launches Kazuma directly into Ju's fist. Kazuma is defeated, realizing Ju's experience allowed him to predict and reverse engineer the entire battlefield. Though impressed, Kazuma reveals his final move. Norin is still hypnotized, and upon awakening, she will fall in love with the first person she sees. Ju rushes toward her as the situation reaches its critical moment.